Hello and welcome to another episode of Not Another Podcast with the Esports Social Club. I'm James Jimenez O'Cowan. Joining us is special guest Nicole Constantine from Click Management. We have Ian Sniper Turner and, of course, Geordie Macalia, Special Esports Club. Welcome to Nicole. And I believe this is your first time podcasting.
It is. I don't like the mic situation, but it's great.
What's wrong with the mics?
I don't like hearing myself.
Okay.
We've been over this.
That sounds like a you problem.
It is. It is.
Awesome. But it's great to have you join us on the podcast.
Aren't you a singer? You sing and stuff.
Boy. No. Why are you exposing me right now? No.
I've seen videos. That's what I'm saying.
No.
Nicole exposed.
Nicole doesn't sing.
Links to Nicole's videos just underneath.
Links will not be in the description. That's all
excellent.
Good.
Well, thank you for that, Matt.
No worries.
That's a valid point. That's worth bringing.
We'll give thanks to Mac, but we'll also give thanks to our special sponsors, Skrilla, who are helping us provide this content, and they've been fantastic supporters of us and Australian esports as well.
Skrilla.
That was pretty lackluster, but they are Australia's first esports betting website. So if you are having a punt, check them out, and do remember, gamble responsibly. Gentlemen, we are back on the couch again, and we're in 1080p.
Oh, well, we've always been in 1080. Oh, no.
No, not P.
No. Yep, you caught me out.
Yeah, that's right.
We've been in 1080.
I feel like no one really deserves this, but they're getting it.
That's true. There's a lot of detail that's gone into this podcast, at least in the video format. But
we can slow it down.
yeah, we can. That's right. We can slow motion things. Not that you want to, right?
The less work I do, the better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we could just slap it together and it just pops out, even better. Awesome. Well, we will thank, as we said, Nicole for jumping in. Obviously, as we said, this is your first time podcasting, but you've been involved in gaming and content creation and esports for quite a long time. People might not actually recognize that.
Yeah, it's been, 3 years now, I think, total, 2 of which have been with Click. So, yeah, it's been a while.
It has been indeed. Now, obviously, a lot of that sits on the YouTube and content creation side of things more so than like the traditional hardcore esports side of things. But more and more, we're starting to see a lot of crossover between esports, content creation, and influencers as well. So like both worlds are slowly expanding, and while those spheres expand, they are starting to intersect a little bit.
100%, yeah.
So are you finding that obviously with your role in Click Management, you're starting to deal a lot more with esports now?
I think also with brands understanding the difference between gaming and esports, like for them, it's a gray area. So often they'll come to us with both, and then it's having to differentiate the two, which is always fun. But there's definitely been a huge crossover with esports as well, obviously with the Fortnite tournament that Click ran and things like that.
Okay, interesting. Actually, that's an interesting point, because that was one of the things that in previous roles I found is that people do have that misconception that esports is gaming is all in one big sphere.
Yeah, so people are like, oh, why would you want to just go and watch little Timmy play a computer game for an hour? It's like he's not just playing the game, he's versing other people.
Yeah, but then try explaining that to people who might see content creators and they go, oh, well, that's esports as well. And so there's some confusion there, and vice versa. Esports, tournaments happen, and they're like, "Oh, is that guy on YouTube?" So there's a little bit of confusion, and like educating and separating these notions of esports, gaming. That's all part of your role.
Yeah,
and
unfortunately, having to educate the brands is a big one, because you look at metrics of esports tournaments, and often it's that one hit of a mass viewership, versus with content creators, it can be kind of up and down, having to explain the difference in its pools and its categories, as well as its demographic.
But the interesting thing for me actually is how popular, obviously, some of the content creators are, and more brands are sort of that's really starting to pique their interest. Yes, the esports phenomenon is bringing them into this space, but it's actually the influencers that are really starting to pique their interest.
I think I found that with esports tournament, it's been, in terms of sponsorships, right, it's a lot harder to have a return of investment. Whereas if you are banking in on one influencer, you can see from the get-go the demographic, the age breakdown, who they target, and you kind of almost get a wider audience working with one person versus an event that might actually have access to 10 influencers in general.
Are you finding, it has been commented actually that there's some huge limitations around like demographic data, and some of the bigger brands coming into the space, they traditionally have access to that data. They know who their customers are, who's buying their product, who's watching, and things like that. Even though it's a digital space, some platforms don't offer comprehensive statistics, do they?
No. Like Twitch, for example, barely gives insights into anything where you compare that to YouTube, where you can break down exactly what traffic source they're coming from, if they're using Android or iPhone or anything like that. You can't see that on Twitch. And Twitch is a bank of esports content. And then they don't have that demographic data available.
I think it's safe to say that traditionally, Twitch has been the place where you'd go and watch most, if not all, in previous times, all esports competitions. But now we're starting to see new players enter the market. Obviously, we saw YouTube recently has picked up the COD League as their that's their title esports piece, and obviously Overwatch League as well. Even Facebook has played in the market
with the
too.
SL1.
But they haven't, like, traditionally going off Twitch has been bad.
Facebook for ESL1, that's the old deal?
The old deal.
Okay. Yeah. I was like, that doesn't happen again, has it? That means the major's going to be on bloody Facebook. Ooh.
I can't remember if they said now it's a joint deal where they're going to do Facebook and Twitch. Do you remember the new deal?
I just know that
they did both.
ESL usually just try to restream to as many platforms as possible.
Yeah. Well, Facebook was a real disaster. But then, so maybe Mixer. Who knows? What about Mixer for an influencer? Is that a thing at the moment?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you saw Ninja and Shroud move over, right? I think right now the streaming wars is so prominent. There's a platform called Caffeine who recently signed Drake, and they have Offset as well, actually, which is, they're tapping into a non-endemic market to try and bring gaming to the forefront of the landscape. But then you have Mixer, who obviously, took the two biggest streamers from Twitch. But if you go and look at their streams that are on Mixer, their viewership has declined drastically. They're still hitting those peak numbers, but you'll find Twitch viewers are loyal to Twitch. Something about the accessibility of the platform, and something you're familiar with versus the UI of Mixer.
I've actually noticed that too. Like, Twitch is really starting to play on the fact that there is a lot of loyalty to Twitch, and for example, if you subscribe to a Twitch influencer and they've you're one of the first, you get this little founders badge in their channel. It's like they're really encouraging loyalty and support in that way. So I think they're also doubling down on the fact that they know that obviously what they do with esports events has been successful, and obviously, as you said, playing on that loyalty as well. So yeah, it's a very very important phase actually in both esports and gaming's growth, as we said, because you've got to make sure you separate both.
It's all about that data though. Like if Mixer do a better job with data, maybe it makes more sense to go across to there for Australians.
Well, there's also YouTube Live as well, right? Didn't some of the content creators sign streaming deals?
Yeah. We have Lachlan, Musolk, and Lannon have all signed over to YouTube. And it's for someone like Lannon, this was an entirely new field, right? He's now just becoming a streamer. Whereas you look at someone like Elliot, for example, and he would casually stream on Twitch, and he's moved over to YouTube. But because they're YouTube based already, they were never Twitch streamers. Them versus the deal that Valkyrie signed, where she moved over to YouTube, she's seen a decline, whereas someone like Elliot has seen a growth. So I think it depends where you really start your audience to when those platform changes make sense.
Do you have any advice for that? Because I've seen a couple of videos today about, in particular, becoming a new streamer and trying to start out on Twitch. And
you're going to start, are you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
mate.
I'd sub.
You're pretty new.
I don't want to drain the bank account of like every oil magnate in the world.
Oh, of course.
But essentially, from the advice I heard was it might not be a good idea to start on Twitch. Maybe, sure, have a Twitch account and everything, but
100%.
start on another platform that really allows you to
100%.
grow your fan base and community better.
Yeah.
Because Twitch doesn't really do a great job of that.
Well, I was going to say, Twitch has the worst translation of any social media. You look at someone who's larger on Twitch and then you look at their Instagram and their Twitter, it's often a lot lower if they've grown from Twitch. Whereas someone who's grown on YouTube, for example, very easy to translate across all your social media platforms. And I think just Twitch doesn't have that tick over of loyalty to the creator versus a platform like YouTube or Twitter or Instagram, where you're able to really get to know the person, not in a permanent sense versus, it running by through chat.
So maybe we're doing the right thing.
Yeah, not on Twitch.
Well, we do have a Twitch channel and things like that, obviously.
Starting out on YouTube, building that community, that base.
We're doing a lot of different things, actually. But it's actually interesting. Obviously, we inherited an existing channel.
Cheated.
Some of our most prominent content's actually been on Twitch, obviously playing on the fact that everyone was hyped for CSGO at that point in time as well, though. It was during the middle of a major. We were streaming in spirit of the major and giving our advice on who was going to be performing in the major. But I think it is interesting that have you found with working with a lot of influencers? Obviously, we know in esports, Twitter is the main social platform. Does that translate with influencers as well? Or do you find that they sort of have a larger spread across other platforms like Facebook and Instagram and whatnot?
I'd say gaming in general, Twitter is kind of at the forefront of, right? I think it's so consumable for all audiences because it's not restricted the same way that Facebook and Instagram together are in some regions. So I will say Twitter, in terms of gaming in general, is definitely the forefront. Facebook falls far behind, just considering the demographic. But Instagram is definitely up there too.
Boomers and fake news.
True. But TikTok is a huge one at the moment. We have a channel at Click called Mully who completely grew off TikTok. He started on TikTok and the translation on that platform to other platforms is at 65%. It's at an all-time high. Within 3 months, hit 1 million subs. So,
wow.
And all from TikTok.
Wow. Okay. That's actually
Bow down to our Chinese
potentially.
overlords.
Yeah. Potentially some good advice though. Like TikTok's a new platform compared to the other players in the market. So growing your audience on newer platforms, as Ian said earlier, like obviously a lot of success. You said 65% conversion. It's actually crazy.
TikTok has an incredible algorithm, I will say. Big fan. Yeah.
I was looking
at
at
it day in, day out.
It's like if someone watches the video like multiple times, it gets like a little boost as well, right? And then it like spreads it out to more eyes, and then if someone likes it, it gets like another couple of points.
It's just a very smart algorithm from what I can tell. Like if I scroll through TikTok now, and I admittedly use it quite a lot, but it's 100% learnt what my interests are, right?
Yeah.
And that's not the same with any other platform. And because the attention span that you need to engage someone is so short, you're more likely to find content that you're always going to enjoy versus someone making a 10-minute video where the drop-off rate, one clip could go wrong and they're just gone. You don't have that issue on TikTok.
Yeah, I know Jess completely abused that. She skipped everything that wasn't Star Wars or dogs.
Yeah.
And now her TikTok is just Star Wars, dogs, and like bird videos.
Yeah, but no other platform has it that smart that you really can control what you want to see.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's like basically the radio plays what they want you to hear. And in this instance, they don't do that. It's actually what you want to hear. Which is quite incredible. Have you found that obviously we're talking a little bit more and we're just backtracking a little bit, but we're talking about the fact that obviously you work with a lot of influencers. There's a lot of intersection there. Have you found that that in some games it's really important, and Fortnite being a great example, like obviously we know that there's an esports element to it and a content creation element. It's a big crossover there, but can you be both? Can you be an influencer / content creator and an esports professional?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Fresh obviously is the biggest example of that. But I think something to recognize as well is you do give one away. He is still a competitive Fortnite player, but he is a content creator at heart, and that's what he wants to stick to. So you do risk a level of that professional play to keep up with the times in content creation, especially on a game like Fortnite, which has those, maybe not so much now, but they had regular updates. They had regular competitions, which you could use for content. And so you do risk sort of that professional side of Fortnite as well.
Do you think it's a smart play to go with more so the content creation? Mainly due to the fact that, say, for example, tomorrow Fortnite doesn't exist.
Yeah,
it goes into like this little black hole.
Yeah.
You'll still be relevant, right? Obviously, for growing an audience.
Yeah, I think it depends on how well you translate your audience as well. But I know for Fortnite, their priority is content creators. They obviously have a huge competitive player base and aspect to it all. But something you'll notice across all the pros, especially in OC, I feel they all do content to some capacity. And I've called a lot of them out on it before, what that content looks like. But at the end of the day, they're all still creating content. By far, out of any esport in this region, they have that high follower count on Twitter. They have that engagement rate. They know what to do to put their name out there. And I think it's just such an incredible kind of prerequisite of what Fortnite is.
Do you think other esports titles could definitely learn a lot from Fortnite content creators?
I think so, to a degree. I think Fortnite is just also very consumable. You don't have to like Fortnite, but it's just so engaging to watch to a degree as well, and so easily able to make creative and fun. And I'm sure you feel that when you edit and stuff, it's a lot easier to edit than something like CS:GO. So
Well, I think the thing is with CS:GO, it's because the nature of the game itself is very hardcore. It's one of the original esports titles. A lot of the content creation, funnily enough, that has been more successful is more about people failing at the game and not necessarily doing things right, as opposed to awarding good plays, at least in terms of what you see as the most successful and trending clips in that game.
I feel like most of the better clips come from just general bigger YouTubers, like the guy with the helmet. What's his name again?
Swagger Souls.
Swagger Souls.
Yeah.
Like those guys, the Misfits guys, you'll see them always just playing CS and they'll just be talking shit and doing whatever.
Yeah, like Soviet Wombat and stuff.
Yeah. It's just what they do. Like they're not necessarily there to win. They're just there to have a good time.
But that's content creation, right?
Yeah, and then they just make it into content. People watch it. It's funny. They don't need to win. Like they just don't. That's it. But you don't see a lot of that coming up from the lower tier. Like you see a lot of people making like frag movies and stuff like that, trying to make that the content. And it can be good, but is it as entertaining as just watching people just have fun with their mates?
Frag movies in Counter-Strike is what kind of built competitive Counter-Strike at first. Like it kind of indoctrinated us.
Yeah.
And now to see that that's gone, I think that's a big part of why Counter-Strike isn't growing competitively. Like they just hit a new player, concurrent player
900,000.
But competitively, it feels like the game's declining, right? Like in terms of professionalism and everything like that in tournaments. So I think they need something for the masses to get behind certain people, certain fans. Like there's no... And the other thing is, the big thing that's gone out of Counter-Strike now is the individualism.
Have you been watching Blast though? Have you been seeing what they're doing with the player interviews?
After show and everything? Yeah.
Or even just like the head-to-head and
what
stuff.
I'm talking about is like, we all know Simple's good. We all know Zywoo's good.
Yeah.
But those guys are being told, you're part of a team. You're part of a team. So Na'Vi can't do like a simple frag movie, or like there's no fan going out there and making a simple frag movie that goes for 10 minutes. And by the end of it, you're just frothing about Simple, like we used to do about Get Right or Forest
Scream.
or Jagan or Scream. Scream
was
Source, the one-tap king. And I think that's really a big detriment that we're missing. And that actually comes down to more of the monetization of content creation. And before people did it as a fandom, they were like, I love this guy, I'm going to make a video about him. But now it's like, I'm not doing that unless someone's paying me for it.
Do you think also too that
Rightly so.
You compare it to Fortnite and you go, okay, competitive scheduling. Fortnite events, big Fortnite events, are less frequent than they are big CS events. Do you think the competitive side and the nature of, as you said,
like
players getting to be
much.
in teams and think about teams, that's actually harming their individual brand growth?
Yeah, I think so. I think also there's just too much Counter-Strike. Like, I know it's a terrible thing to say, but like there's too much of it on the competitive circuit. So international competitive circuit for these big players as well. So it's not about like, oh, did you see them at this tournament and you don't see them again for a while, so you need that reminder. But by that same token, there's more content. There's more pro frags. There's more sick clutches. So
I think that comes down to the orgs as well, especially, looking at it in comparison to Fortnite. Orgs who really do have those good top tier Fortnite players are investing into that content aspect because they know that's what Epic Games is investing back into. There are a lot of, pro-am tournaments, a lot of opportunities. Like Showdown Under was originally supposed to be content creator only, and having those opportunities they know are important. Whereas in CS:GO, orgs kind of put that on the back end of everything.
Yeah.
Sorry, Ian was just having a moment.
I'm sorry. I'm
just letting you have that moment, mate. It's your moment. Take it. Run with it. But I think you're right in that, obviously the fact that CSGO is open circuit as well. The developer Valve aren't so hands-on in helping to invest in the game outside of the majors. So even, it's a completely different approach.
And they don't really want anything to do with the players, really. They've got their stickers and everything, but from they're not going to go out and brand a player, help a player's branding or anything like that. It's
interesting because they used to, right? Like they used to be around the Valve majors, you had player profiles.
Yep.
And it seemingly was though, at least in the first versions, those were Valve editions. Like Valve went out and created that and put it on the CSGO channels, whereas like in later...
I think we did one. No, that was ESL Cologne.
But then later on, it was the TOs that took over that content creation.
Yeah.
The TOs were responsible for the content creation.
Well, it started with them. It started with the TOs. Valve tried it, I think, and then maybe just went away from it because I remember like at DreamHack Winter, it was there. And then again for ESL Cologne, it was there, the player profiles. And then for the majors, well, didn't really seem that much because you had to make it past group stages probably. No, but then there was, we did content for... ESL Cologne was a major, wasn't it? Yeah, so
it was.
After that, it was all on PGL. It went back to PGL, and it was PGL had to have AR and all that sort of stuff. So it's just never changing product. That's the thing.
I think the thing you'll notice too in esports in general is that the content creation largely has fallen either on TOs or orgs, as opposed to other games where it's actually been on the individual player to create that content.
Yeah. Well, I think there's no reason why orgs can't invest some of their money in their own brand. It's a better way of marketing than, say, releasing some merchandise. I think if you can just give a content creator some money to make a movie about your team and hype it up really well, I think that will get you more fans long term, or even just for your own brand rather than the players in your team at the time.
Well, Avant had some of the best content back when they had that League of Legends house. And even for so long, they had Aussie, right? Aussie Antics was signed to them.
Yeah.
No use of content at all and none of those opportunities. And no one signing people like Aussie, people that are in our region and have that prominent spotlight in games, again, such as Fortnite for this example, but it's across, all games really in esports, and finding those people and bringing them on to be that piece, because I think any kind of level of content creation is just as important as the players.
That's right. And it also, as we were just talking about then, it also helps build personal brand. So outside of like those big, heavy hitters in terms of CS players, like personal brands seemingly just don't sort of exist as prominently as they do.
When they used to, or even that they used to, because in Counter-Strike there were personal brands, but all those guys have kind of like either quit or just stopped being content creators, or then you get the flip side where Shroud just becomes a content creator. So, which we all know how that turned out for Shroud. It's a lot better than his playing career would have.
That's right. There was always that joke that by playing in a competition he was losing money.
Regardless of the result. It wasn't a joke. It was fact.
Yeah, exactly. So, having the fact that he, at least early on, realized that was a great pathway. Yeah. Very few in the CS space actually.
Oh, even if they realize it, though, you think about Twitch Counter-Strike streaming is almost completely dead for individuals, right? Simple still does it occasionally, but then he quit or got banned or whatever.
He got banned.
And then Get Right does it now occasionally, maybe a bit of this Dignitas stuff. Tarek as well. He's No Shirt TV. So
Yeah.
that's still good. But
That's actually what got him into some of the spotlights.
Yeah,
to be
of
honest,
course.
as a player playing FPL and things like Rank S.
Wait, is Simple banned at the moment on Twitch?
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
this thing
Oh.
at the moment where there's fake accounts being botted for viewership, and so it looks like Simple streaming.
Right.
So they're like it's Simple W as the Twitch name, and because they've got 30,000 people watching, they're coming up on people's radars, and they're literally just full of scam bots
Yeah.
posting in the chat.
Yeah.
So there's
I've
a
seen
big
that for RuneScape as
big
well.
article on that at the moment.
isn't that
actually.
just also because Simple, his main account's banned, so they can do that?
100%? They're using his name and
Yeah.
likeness,
Yeah.
and they're literally just restreaming old VODs.
But that's not
of
why
him
Simple
playing.
is banned.
No,
Simple is banned because he said something, and
Correct.
it's against TOS. But he
Okay.
feels like it's not against TOS.
correct. So right now he's
I
not.
think
gonna
it was
issue an
like
apology.
a gay slur, right?
No, I think it was something else.
Was it?
Yeah, it was a gay slur.
Was it?
It was
Yeah.
a word that was like derogatory gay slur.
But he's like,
it didn't
we
mean
say
in
it
the
all the
play or
time in the
something."
Ukraine, so it's okay.
But you can't do that on Twitch. You can't.
It's just a common saying in the Ukraine. Like,
Have you found that though, working with influencers, that like some things are sort of, you've got to educate them on a lot of things because there's things that they might say or do and that
That's a good question.
in one instance
PR
it's
training.
accepted. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But then they go and put that in the international audience and it just doesn't translate.
There's I'm sure we've all said in game before, oh, that was cancer, or this guy's autistic, things like that,
Never.
which you shouldn't be saying, but is, it adamantly is a part of game cultures, right? Like saying that was cancer or May is cancer. I mean, Elliot was on the front page of the Sydney Herald or whatever it was
That's
for
right.
saying May is cancer. That's what he said, and they said he was promoting cancer. It was very strange, but 100%, like even them no longer typing KYS, they obviously don't mean it, and it is a part of that sort of what you say in game.
It's keep yourself safe, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's what it's for.
100%.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely have to give them sort of a hit around the head and be like, can't say that anymore.
Yeah, that's definitely a few CS players could have benefited from that training early on in the piece before having made some mistakes. Obviously, it's a huge benefit, right? Media training and I guess communicating the importance of that presence of mind in moments like that to players and content creators.
Yeah, 100%. Players more so try to get away with it a lot more. Like a lot of the esports players we had in the tournament, it was like, you guys cannot say this, it's against the rules, you get removed. But again, I think that comes down to the nature of games, right? And it is quite a toxic culture, but you cannot have that in front of a content creator, especially a game like Fortnite where it's kids. You can't have that in
I
front
think
of
a
them.
big difference obviously I bantered a lot, and it's obviously mind games to a degree, but it's things that no one has ever heard before on a field. Like no one, like the 20 guys that go out to play AFL don't all wear microphones. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and there's no chat log,
No.
for example.
Yeah.
So we're in like this new age of scrutiny as well.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult to stay clean.
That's true, and then that's where traditional media training wouldn't actually be of a great benefit to us. It would be a benefit, but there also needs to be extra nuances added to that. That you got to basically treat it like you're mic'd up 24/7.
You do. It's almost like, I used to say the best thing about esports is like you can play with the best player in the world if you want to. You know what I mean? Or the best player in your country. Because you can just join matchmaking in Counter-Strike in particular. And one day, maybe, I'll be in there, for example.
Okay, yeah.
And that's a real bonus. You can't do that. You can't go
You said
play
could.
footy.
Could.
Yeah. You
No.
can't go play footy with, some of the best players that ever played.
Yeah.
So
point.
that's a really cool thing with esports. But at the same time, for that guy who's the best in the country or whatever, he has to have this whole mindset of everything I say is going to be scrutinized.
Well, that's right. Like a lot of esports players, content creators, influencers, they're very accessible.
Yeah.
They interact a lot with their viewership and fans and things like that. Do you find sometimes that working with influencers and content creators, they struggle with that a little bit sometimes because obviously, sometimes just a random member of the public might actually say something that's not to their liking either.
Yeah.
Like they struggle
Maybe
with that
a little
sometimes.
bit creepy or something.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. But Thanks for that.
The ASMR.
Um,
Yeah.
Stream snipers are a really big one, especially in competitive, which I know Fresh and the Twins actually struggle with a lot. But also that comes back to, why CS content creation isn't that big anymore. And it's because content creators aren't willing to take the risk. Something like CSGO has an incredibly toxic culture, at least to an audience, right? That's already what the assumption and stereotype is. So why would a content creator risk their audience and their platform in that? Because you go live on stream, you enter an MM game, suddenly you have this kid screaming down the mic racial slurs, and then it's like, well, I'm banned. There's nothing that you can do about that.
That is true, actually.
So I think that's another reason why games like CS are no longer prominent, because that stereotype is already built into what the game is.
That's right. Other games have taken precautions and added streamer mode.
Yeah,
Fortnite's we've got that. But even like with Instafrag, if you say anything that would get someone banned on Twitch, then you get banned from Instafrag, which is
It was too late, right?
CS platform.
Yeah, but exactly.
Yeah.
It's too late.
That's
It's like
the
it doesn't
problem.
matter what happens after. It's
Unless
like it
you're
can't happen in the
gonna
moment.
If you
voice enable zero.
if you mute them or whatever, like that's all you can do. As long as you take every step you can to not get banned,
Yeah.
but you might completely ruin the point of like the strategy. in
I
the
remember
game.
if I was ever streaming, I'd put voice enable zero so you could never hear any microphones. But
Yeah,
that meant I
yeah.
couldn't use the microphone. And then sometime later, I'll get like a message from someone saying, "Hey, it was really awesome to play matchmaking with you, but you were really rude. You should have said you didn't talk to us at all."
Yeah,
I was like, "Well, I didn't know you were talking."
yeah, couldn't hear.
Yeah,
took the precaution.
it's true. Like you can't take that risk
No.
in certain
No,
games.
absolutely not.
So-
not when you've got my sort of personality that was very easily targeted.
True. But yeah, the other games as I said have taken preventative measures, whereas in games like
Rainbow
Counter-Strike,
Six,
yeah,
you
Mm.
ask about like certain African countries and just typing that in will get you banned.
yeah. Actually, a lot of people are banned simply by
Answering
Using
quiz trivia questions.
Yeah.
What's a country in Africa that starts with N? Answer it, banned.
yeah. You get completely nuked.
Yep.
For that one. Remember that term, nuked,
Nuked,
on
yes,
forums? You have your
yes.
post nuked,
Oh,
and you were gone.
nothing worse.
Can't even say that anymore.
Oh.
I just said it on podcast. You can't even say it anymore.
Oh, you can't say that.
Huh? Can't be nuked. What?
Nicole, train us, please.
Clearly, we'll have to after this.
Yeah, we're gonna have to have a post podcast
We'd
debrief.
lose a podcast if we were at 2 PC.
Yeah, no, that's true actually. But I think there's obviously a lot that can be learned in the crossover between esports and content creation.
Mm.
Have you seen any good examples outside of Fortnite of players that have been doing great things for their personal brand within esports, or is it just
XQC.
XQC?
Yeah, he got his profile off Overwatch League, right? And then he got banned, I think it was. Or...
Yeah, I think he was removed.
Yeah.
for a gay slur.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Again.
mean, he got removed, but also he managed to build his entire profile off that, and
boy
is one
image.
of the biggest content creators on Twitch, especially now that Ninja and Shroud are gone. And so I think he kind of built that landscape of there is 100% a crossover where you allow it and where you invest into yourself with the platform that you have. To be bigger than the game that you play. And I think a lot of Australian esports personalities, especially in Counter-Strike, could learn a thing or two from that. I think Dick Stacey is the one that's really trying to go for it now. And I've seen him streaming a lot more. And that's really good to see that he's going to build his personal brand outside of everything that he was in Counter-Strike.
Might not be brand safe. some
Might
of the
not
content.
be, but he's still building something, right? Because XQC certainly isn't brand safe.
No.
either.
Definitely
So,
not.
I mean, it just depends your target audience, really.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Well, the thing is, when you say brand safe, it's like, well, it's not like us where we have maybe corporate sponsors or something like that. Their brand is like people sitting at home on a couch, so it could be brand safe. You know what I mean? Big dick energy.
It's true. Some people just need that extra motivation and that extra pep in their step,
Yeah.
and that they might be able to get that from engaging with his content or watching his stream and things like that. But I mean, we're gonna just drag Nicole along now for a little bit of
Great.
an esports.
The BAU. Are we going to get into the businesses?
We're going to get into the business as usual sort of stuff, but it's great to get insight for crossover opportunities, because obviously we know that Fortnite and content creation has actually been at the one of the most prolific things for esports and gaming, and that's probably why the lines are a little bit blurred, because along with it, Fortnite and content creation and gaming have propelled esports into headlines.
Yeah, for sure.
And the mainstream. So yeah, it's there's a lot of lessons to be learned there, and I think yourself and obviously people in your industry in talent management and obviously that business to the business side of things, you're going to have a lot more prominence over the next sort of couple of years as these two worlds sort of both collide and mesh into one another. But one of the this is going to be a great segue actually into this, because we were talking earlier about fudging the statistics.
I always get worried when you find a great segue.
Why is you?
Should I be worried?
Yes, you should.
But
No one knows where we're going.
no, that's right. Exactly. You're along for the ride. Strap yourself in, Matt. But we were talking about fudging statistics, or even statistics not necessarily
Adding up.
and whatnot. But one of the instances this week
Are you
in
feeling
the
touched, Jim?
esports world, I'm feeling touched. Maybe 20% touched.
Yeah.
Maybe 20%. I don't know which 20% of me. But either way, we saw a merger announced between Diemens Esports and AEL.
Can someone explain to me what Diemens Esports is?
That's exactly what I tried to solve this week.
Right.
The only thing I can find on them is Cubs Esports,
Yeah.
which they have had a website, and it's now just a splash page, and it just has some interesting statistics linked to it.
Right.
So let me just give you the Cliff's Notes
Time for an expose.
on these ones. I actually just tried to type it in, and I can't find it anymore because the link is seemingly gone. But basically, obviously, there was talking
a merger.
There was a merger, but there was talk about who Diemens Esports were, who Cubs were, and who had invested in them originally as well. And then they merged with AEL, and there was talk about obviously how those two would work together. Now, the fudging of statistics, and the interesting part for me was the fact that there was a statement in there that said 20% of their esports activities had touched the Australian market.
20% of their activities?
No, they touched 20% of the esports activities in the Australian market. Was it that way?
No, it was their esports activities touched 20% of the Australian market.
I guess that's a big percent.
It sounds like we're saying the same thing. Anyway, move on.
No, they can be construed differently, Matt.
Yeah.
Two different things can be construed differently. Now, the thing that came into question was the fact that where were they getting their statistics from? What was the
Where's
Australian
the
market
100%?
gauge?
Where's the pie chart?
Yeah. Well, anyone can make a pie chart, right?
Well, I mean, I know what it will look like. It'll have 20%. It'll be like touched. But I mean, where do I see the touch? What kind of touch are we talking about?
To give you
Strong touch? Soft touch?
Shut up.
Okay. Thanks. You're training me as we speak.
Yeah, this is
live PR training.
This is actually a great exercise for you, Ian. Now,
We
Mac
need you
is
back every
furiously
week.
Mac is furiously googling
Twitter Google.
the bits and pieces.
Twitter
The Twitter Google. But basically, as I was saying here, I actually found it really interesting that between the two of them, AEL and Diemens Esports, they generated a combined revenue in 2019 of $600,000. Now that puts them up there in terms of revenue with some of Australia's top orgs. So that is a really interesting piece. Now, obviously, I know nothing about Diemens Esports. There's nothing to be found about them. Whether or not any of that revenue, what share of that was theirs, is a mystery.
Can we backtrack? What's Cubs, by the way?
It's just
Cubs
an esports team, isn't it?
Yeah, it was just an esports
Parent company? I
Yeah.
think.
No. There's just a team. The parent company is Diemens. Diemens? Is it pronounced Diemens?
So the parent company that originally invested into them was Blue Star Capital.
Blue Star Capital.
Blue Star Capital invested
Diemens.
into Diemens.
Diemens.
It's Diemens because it seems to be a
Diemens.
play.
Diemens.
It's a play on Van Diemen's Land,
Yeah. Okay.
which was the original.
Tasmania.
No, so it was one of the original names for Australia when it was being it was discovered by the Dutch.
And then we put all the demons in Tasmania and changed the name to Tasmanian devil.
Shut up again.
All right, cool. This is horrible
People are on the
history.
ride with me here.
This is horribly off
The
off facts.
Anyway,
history.
so Blue Steel Capital invested into
Blue Star.
Blue Star, sorry, yes, invested into them, and then they've partnered with CHE. Merged
Merged with
Merged.
Critical Hit Entertainment, which is
Yeah.
AEL.
So we don't know if it's 300 from Critical or
Well, Critical Hit
600.
Entertainment, they have a number of different properties. One of them was
Successful
obviously
properties,
AEL,
Ventures.
but they also have like the University League, the High School League that they do, and things like that, and like an Open and a Corporate Cup as well. So obviously, I don't know how
Big
successful.
revenue raiser there.
But I don't. Yeah, well, the Corporate Cup definitely. I actually think there's a huge market for corporate events and things like that. But obviously, between all those entities and Diemens Esports, $600,000 revenue.
And we discussed that revenue isn't just like
It's not profit. Revenue and profit are two different things.
Yeah.
So they're signing across $600,000 in where they use that. I don't know. Obviously, they're not a.
Well, they didn't use it on Girl Gamer Fest. Let's go with that.
I don't think they've used it on too many other things, unless
Or
photographers are really
WSG.
expensive. But the thing that interested me, as I said, was the fact that the statistics that they quoted, like who's fact checking those?
Yeah.
Like obviously
And
at
this
some
is
point.
ASX as well. Like
Well, I think
it
the
was an ASX statement.
I think it was a press release because the Blue Star Capital themselves are listed on the London Stock Exchange.
Yes.
So they're an overseas entity. So they've got to detail their business
CHE is
interests.
listed on the Australian
Is it?
Stock Exchange. Yes.
Well, the one that I just read was from a European esports
It's like
report.
0.07 cents or something.
I'll make them better than Mogul.
Oh, how does Mogul tie into this? Is there any way there?
They just provided the platform.
Oh, I could
They
be
provided
totally.
the platform
I
for
could be
WSG.
totally wrong, and it's Mogul that's on the ASX.
And Mogul's on the ASX.
They
Critical
are.
hit.
They are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely Mogul.
Yeah, no.
So anyway, hang on. I found the splash page. It actually relocated itself,
as you do.
as I do. But it was February 3rd was the statement, but it was dated February 3rd. It was only announced last week. So it had been up for a week before it was sort of announced anyway. But basically this merger will create one of the largest esports service infrastructure providers in Australia, with over 20% of the domestic esports market touched by merged companies' activities.
Yeah, it was Mogul that partnered with Critical Hit, and then Mogul's on the ASX. Just to confirm and get the facts right.
So the merged company will own the largest esports gaming network of high school and university students in Australia, which is,
20% is like, I guess it's not a lot considering how many events we have, but how much does the university leagues like take up?
20% is like. That's exactly.
The fuck is that?
That's about a big fish.
that's a YouTube special.
That's how basically inaccurate those numbers are. It's
Yeah.
not a quantifiable number.
Well, exactly. Like
Like,
it's
they
also
don't
a round
touch
number.
R6. They don't touch half of the Rocket
No,
League
but it's just
stuff.
about what?
They don't touch
yeah, it'll be Rocket
CS.
League,
They-
surely.
They have a
They
Rocket
have a
League.
Rocket
touch
League.
University.
FIFA, Rocket
Yeah, but I'm
League,
talking about all the
and
other
League of
Rocket League
CS.
Legends.
stuff.
They have CS
Oh,
in,
yeah,
their,
they have
in
CS.
their university leagues.
They have
Would you
CS and
count
Rocket League.
LPL as Australian anymore, or are they just New Zealand but oceanic?
I'd put, the fact that, like you could obviously, whichever statistic sounds better when you're quoting it to a certain
Exactly.
business or audience, right? Like if you want to say, well, we're Oceania wide as opposed to we're Australian. If the New Zealand statistics bolster you a little bit more, include them.
Do they have anything
But if
to
you're
do
talking
with?
to a partner that has no interest in New Zealand, don't talk to them.
Yeah. Do they have anything to do with the Meta Esports like LOL League?
Nope.
Nothing to do with
That's
that.
completely separate.
Nothing to do with any IEMs, obviously. Nothing to do with.
Just think of a successful
Melbourne
event.
Esports Open,
Yeah.
nothing like that.
Yeah,
There's nothing.
there's a lot of Rainbow Six. There's a huge amount of Rainbow Six. Nothing to do with the little bit of Fortnite that we have. Like,
They don't do Call of
how
Duty.
the fuck do they touch 20% of the esports market?
That's the thing, Mac.
Well, then they're fucking wrong. So
That's the thing. They've just
Can we-
made up.
Can we move on?
They've just made a
We're just
statistic.
fucking going in
We're just
circles.
we're gonna go back down that Mac rage tweet thread again.
Yeah.
But I mean, in
No, that was
turn-
Sean. Was there?
Uh-huh.
But this is a problem that we've experienced in previous instances, and we're starting to see the scale back of it, was the fact that we've had increasingly, and you would have encountered this problem as well, increasingly inflated statistics quoted to businesses, and they now see that as the expectation that their video is now just going to, if they're involved in an activation, they're going to get huge spread far and wide based on some fudge statistics.
I mean, to be perfectly fair, I mean, it's great for me, right? On the gaming business side of things, is like when you make up these statistics for the esports realm, that's why people and brands are now investing into influencers. That's why KFC came and invested into influencers instead of esports. That's why Dare has now entered the influencer space instead of esports. And it's happening more and more so with those non-endemic brands rather than investing into something which, you know, technically you can see more people, right? With those activations, you just invest into the one person who you can really see all that data as it goes live.
Correct. So that's the problem that we're facing, right? So the fact that, you know, where is the other 80%? Where they pull that 20% from? What numbers?
What does touching even mean? Again. Sorry.
Put it this way. So this is, as we said, a problem. It's going to continue to be a problem as long as people are just throwing statistics out there. That's the issue with the way I see it, is the fact that now all of a sudden, if you're not even coming closer, and realistically, if you're honest about your statistics, and you know you need to be at some point, because there's going to be some fact checking in there and things like that, that it just becomes this self-perpetuating lie that you've got to maintain sense for. And don't be wrong, like you can pay to boost numbers on videos and all that sort of jazz here and there, but ultimately all you're doing is you're hurting your bottom line, but you're also burning a potential sponsor that later on will just think that the entire space is hot air.
Yeah.
And you burn the community too, right?
Correct.
I think there is also it's on the people who are making up these statistics as much as it's on the community then who have been burned and don't want to trust these people who somehow still get that spotlight and still get that seat in front of the government or in front of all these top tier brands, and then you don't actually get that 20% support that people would want to give you because they know that you have the contacts, and then you kind of lose it on both ends.
Exactly, and I think that's probably why we're starting to see the community starting to not support these events at the very basic level. They're not even starting to enter some of these events.
Yeah.
So they're voting with their participation as opposed to, you know, other instances you vote, you know, the customer votes with their wallet. Well, these guys are voting with their time and their
Which is a
efforts and things
dangerous
like that.
cycle, because if they don't participate in these tournaments, then maybe
The tournaments don't happen.
the tournaments don't come back to Australia, and then we don't have qualifiers for overseas events. So it's a real detriment.
So that one we're going to keep a close eye on. You know, obviously we'll make sure that, you know, any sort of statistics that we see out there, as we said, it just sets a dangerous precedent if these stats aren't fact checked or they don't seem to come from sources that, you know, like obviously, so someone inside the esports space, 20%, like we're struggling to see it, but 20% of the market, and claiming you have 20% market share or, you know, voice is, you know, not that much. It's very believable for an outside brand to see that and go, well, these guys aren't, you know, they aren't overestimating anything here. And we're sitting on the other end of it going, well, actually they are.
Yeah.
So as we said, that could be very dangerous, but we're going to move on a little bit. And before we do, we'll give a special thank you to our sponsor, who are Skrilla. You guys are just doing it on command now. I don't even need it, but that little soundboard that we can, because the voiceovers weren't as well received internally as they should have been. But
I heard a lot of love for the fourth intro for Max Mailbag, by the way.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that one's sticking around.
Is that the California Love one, or is it the Who?
That one.
Yeah.
You know what time it is.
It's time to thank our sponsor, Skrill. As we said, they are Australia's first esports betting site, and they support the community by investing in them. So it's great to see. Obviously, we're not the only ones that Skrill do support, but we're very thankful for it. And if you are having a punt, make sure you do gamble responsibly. And gentlemen, we're going to talk about some of the big things that were announced this week that we didn't get to talk about. And that obviously was with the IEM tickets being announced. We've already seen a sellout of premium tickets, which is fantastic because there are more premium tickets on offer this year in the Melbourne venue than there have been in the Sydney venue.
Yeah, I think it encompasses a lot of the floor because you can see the floor map there. There's the front of the floor that you can go and sit right in front of the stage.
Yeah.
And then the 2 middle sections at the bottom level were the premium ones.
Just like Sydney. Just like Sydney.
Yeah.
But they were the global elite.
No. Premium was
No, it was
the
those
whole
front ones. Yeah.
Well,
Because
what was
you
the front
you get
ones?
to like high five the players as they come out.
No, I think it was like I Am Sydney. It's
Yeah.
just I didn't get to do the premium thing last year.
Okay. Yeah.
Mm. Well, yeah, they have obviously sold out of all of them.
Yep. The diehard fans.
The
you have to
diehard
say.
fans came in and obviously purchased those because
Yeah.
there's a lot of value
I bought one.
in getting in early for these things,
Yeah,
right?
also-
if you don't, you potentially miss out on a good seat.
Yeah.
And there was a very, very
You could be sitting with Mac.
yeah, it was a very.
Mm.
I'm
sitting
going
with
to call it
Jess.
questionable. There was a very questionable video put out by, and I say questionable in their creative choices for this one by old Ben Green and
I saw the
Jordan Mays.
thumbnail for that.
It
and
was
I,
as
I decided not to watch it just to like
It was
preserve.
put together in a day.
Yeah,
It's just-
irrelevant, Your Honor. I saw the thumbnail and I was like, look, I'm sure that is good. I'm not going to watch it though, just because I didn't want it to
it was so bad, it was
poison
good.
my mind.
And that's why I say
That's
questionable
the whole
choices.
point of it, right? That's
Yes.
the.
I mean,
the niche.
that's what you do if you want to.
Yeah, it's like,
Easy-
damn,
easy
well,
content.
you know, we've got a green screen. Shit, we can't hire a plane. We can't really make it great. So how about
mean,
we just make it a meme
They
instead?
sold all their premium tickets. They could probably afford to hire a plane.
Well, they hadn't sold them yet.
Now,
Yeah, had to make video first, mate. Right.
But
What came first, the chicken or the
how
egg?
many tickets do you reckon they sold on the back of that video?
Oh, heaps.
enough,
Okay.
enough.
Enough to sell it out.
Yeah.
Alright.
But that's fantastic, obviously, because that's community support. That's buy-in, and it means that there's a demand there as well. People want to attend that event, and they want a great seating
They want
experience.
memes. They want Dick Stacey to come out, Mr. Australia, to fight for Australia again. Take down Henry G, the wanker.
The caches,
Yeah.
exactly, and it's good to see. Obviously, that event is after the big shift from capital city to one another to Melbourne. Good to see that obviously the support is flowing for it as well. It wasn't, it was never. I guess it was never really too much of a doubt that numbers would be impacted by a shift of sitting.
Yeah.
But I think the question may be now around other events that sort of sit outside of it.
These are people that waited 3 years for it to come to Melbourne. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, correct.
not everyone came to Sydney because the flights were expensive. The timing was with another event at the same time. So accommodation was super expensive. So,
Yeah.
If you could even get it near the venue
yeah.
as well.
Yeah, as well,
because
out in Bankstown.
Yeah, well, that and like obviously the bulk of accommodation in Sydney is in Sydney, whereas the venue itself is a
Out
little bit
west.
further out. It's a little bit out west. So
Yeah, I saw a lot of people getting their hotels in the city, and I was like, why the fuck are you doing that? That's
Well, they-
nowhere near Homebush.
Sydney's bigger than it looks, to be honest.
it
Yeah.
is true. It is. True. It takes longer to travel
Yeah, than
Uh,
you think.
than you think in Sydney. So it was crazy because like obviously I hail from Brisbane, and like that distance for me, I know from the city
It's
to
nothing, though.
in Brisbane you
Yeah.
can drive it in like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In
It's just
Sydney
like a
you can
country
drive it
town
in
up
an
in
hour.
Brisbane.
Yeah. It's like the LA traffic of
Correct.
Australia.
Yeah.
Correct. So, like, obviously, a change of city hasn't harmed it at all. Looking forward to that. Now, there's going to be a huge crossover, obviously, because the Melbourne Esports Open. So, we are going to see influencers and content creators present at other activities. Not that they already weren't present at IEMs. I think it was just because of the fact it's a big event and obviously big name sponsors are there, and they have obviously some obligations to those sponsors. But, there's a real big crossover now between what was more so traditionally a gaming event, the Melbourne Esports Open, because it had
Like an expo,
different
really.
titles. Yeah,
It
correct.
had everything.
It had everything.
Pokemon
Whereas IEM
cards.
There was no counter.
was CS with everything else was just a
There
garnish.
was. Yeah.
Oh, that.
Hilly had to do the little 1v1 or tournament or whatever
Oh,
that was.
wow. Okay. Tick in a box. They had Counter Strike. Sorry, I stand corrected. They had 1v1s with Pilly.
Yeah.
Number one analyst AU.
Which they got sorted
Now,
on a very short notice. So
obviously, that's great news. We'll keep tracking IEM as things keep on developing, and whether or not there's any more in-flight announcements
Yeah.
about IEM, we will keep our ears pinned about those. But Ian, correct me if I'm wrong. We spoke about a roadmap and the need for one in certain game titles like PUBG.
In a very recent podcast.
In a very recent podcast.
And then, lo and behold, PUBG Esports themselves release a roadmap the very next day.
We're getting shit done.
Yeah,
Same with LPL, right?
It was a little scary.
Yeah.
It was a little scary. Although we did say it like 2 weeks ago.
Do you know what's crazy as well was that Meta Esports actually recently released, and that Meta are the high school esports league that work with Adelaide Crows, and they also released a roadmap very recently as well. So roadmaps, flavor of the month, or
Yeah, it's the
Well,
thing that
now's
we've
the
been
time to
asking
do it,
for,
my
though,
guy,
right?
in
Like,
February.
start of the year.
Yeah.
You were saying, remember on the other podcast couple before, where you're like, "There's nothing.
Yeah.
ESL hasn't released any roadmaps. We don't know what the fuck's going on for the year."
Yep.
Everyone's starting to release them, so it
Do you
just
think-
took everyone a little while.
it took a lot. To be honest, that's my criticism: is that it took too long.
Yeah.
Because you've lost a month in a year, right? Everyone,
Well, not even
Yeah.
a month, right? Because we're talking about last year,
Mm.
all the events stopped. Like, it's not even an official player break, but December, like, that's it. Like, esports is done for December. And so it's 2 months where people have had to just either find their own income, you know, because we're talking about PUBG, a game where you pretty much only have this one circuit and there's no local circuit for people to play in the meantime. You know, there's no CG or anything like that anymore. So it'll be interesting to see.
There is one, but
Well,
there's no. I don't think there's prizes.
No,
even more prevalent.
It's not by a TO. I think it's just a community ran little.
yeah,
one.
that's not good enough, right? We like that.
even
there
more,
needs to be
even more
something.
prevalent, right, is the harm it does to grassroots. Because
Yeah.
we were talking about players not having anything to play for. Like, the next generation of any title coming through are the guys that are playing in the grassroots competitions now.
Yep.
So the fact that they have nothing to play for harms the game, any game. in
Got to
long
learn
term.
somewhere.
So if there's just a month or two of
You just go off
downtime,
to Fortnite or something, or you know, or
Well, I mean, that's happening right now in Fortnite. We had no content for about a month and everyone was going insane, quite literally. There was
no updates, right?
Yeah, no
Yeah.
updates for like 3 weeks. And then suddenly Star Wars was here.
suddenly Star
yeah.
Wars.
Yeah, literally out of nowhere. And, you know, Fortnite as well has been one who, I mean, Epic rather, has had a lot of criticism to not releasing a roadmap. And
And now
letting
there's like
players know.
some 5v5 search and destroy type game mode.
Yeah.
love and war, mate. It's love and
Yeah.
war. But it's actually interesting that they're trying different things.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's not a traditional format for that game, but it obviously draws parallels between CS:GO.
They're
Right.
just doing the content creator path. They
Mhm.
started with something that got them famous, and now they're moving into Twitch. You know, it's like they started with Battle Royale, and now they're moving into Search and Destroy.
Well, I would be curious to find out whether or not that because obviously Epic have the power to do this.
I don't know how it's
Create an event around it.
Yeah.
They have the power to do that, right? And they have done it. They will happily throw 100 mil at something if they want to, because that's the power that obviously their product has with the amount of money that it generates.
The V-Bucks.
The V-Bucks, right? Exactly. So
I feel like the
they
problem
want
with
to do
a
it. They do it.
game mode like that when you're doing third person is you can just do the cheat around the corner, hide behind an
PUBG.
object.
Yeah, just like
Yeah.
the original PUBG.
But at least like PUBG has the first person mode, which is probably forced.
it didn't
to,
always.
Yeah, I know, but for the search and destroy mode,
Oh yeah,
I haven't
PUBG
seen it.
hasn't.
I'm just assuming that'd be first person to keep it a bit more.
Can you first person by
realistic.
choice in Fortnite? I didn't think you could. No.
Can you
no
first
way.
person at all?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so. Okay.
It's PUBG that the third person was
they
least
came
preferred.
around. They came around in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it started as third person, but then
Yeah.
they went first
With
person for a lot
Evermore
of
just
things.
prone behind a fence, winning a tournament, just not shooting at anyone, but just watching everyone fight.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, look,
That's
he
fun.
played the meta.
Ah, look.
I mean, we saw what did
Nicole,
we see?
we know you're contractually obliged to say that, but
Australian Esports Open last year, there were certain players that won games without killing anyone.
You
There
mean
were
the guy
no-
that won the entire event?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what a great game.
May have been a
Fortnite.
twin of sorts, but didn't get any
Is there,
frags.
what's the news on the twins? I saw lately something's happened where they've left Renegade. Not what?
They left Renegades.
They left Renegades?
Yeah.
Renegades.
Yeah.
Fresh and Twins have left Renegades.
But, uh-huh.
I cannot announce where they
Oh,
are playing.
what-
oh, but they're going somewhere. Ooh.
Um,
There you go.
Because I didn't think it would be like, oh yeah, it's the hype's done. We're quitting. It'd be
Yeah.
they're
No.
moving on to
There will
somewhere
be
else.
an announcement soon.
Oh, okay.
Keeping it fresh.
Speaking of announcements, you've actually carved out a career as an announcer, And our next segment is going to be Max Mailbag. So
Before we jump into this, there's actually something I thought of.
I'm not doing it.
no,
No,
he's
not
not doing
yet.
it live.
So I was talking to a little birdie earlier.
Oh.
I was playing some league.
Are you allowed to talk to birdies?
Oh, yeah. I guess so. Jess probably would assume that we would actually be getting a bird. So we're not, Jess. I'm sorry. Anyway, talking to my mate, and he was saying that the anti-cheat that LPL have been using for the CS tournaments, everyone that's used it has now been getting hit with people trying to log into their Steam accounts.
I heard that as well, but I
Yeah.
also heard it wasn't as widespread as people have made out.
I heard it skipped second factor authentication.
What did
Right.
Yeah.
the people logging in?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know too
But
much. Anyway, I
anyway,
just
yeah.
heard that, and I was just like, "Oh, that's cool.
That's concerning.
That's pretty cool."
So basically, obviously, with that anti-cheat, a lot of anti-cheats have traditionally bypassed any sort of security on your PC. Like you do leave yourself a little bit open to it.
You sign over your digital life when you
But-
install anti-cheat.
Yeah, but correct. So but you also have this faith that it's protecting you from cheaters.
Yep.
It's
To an
peace
extent.
of mind.
Yeah, peace of mind.
Maybe it's a placebo.
a bit like a cheating death was. Just peace of mind.
And it's no punk buster.
Yeah, no.
But so basically, you're saying that there are people. Obviously, it's concerning too because LPL, the provider, that database of players that potentially this anti-cheat, if it's corrupted, has access to, and players that are needing to use it to play their matches,
Yeah.
because it is the biggest grassroots operator for CS in Australia and New Zealand.
Yeah.
I'll include them. But that could be a huge problem if it's found out to be true, right? Like that's, people's, as you said, digital lives on the line.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, that's a rumor I heard. I don't know if we can really go too far into it, but
No, I read about that. So I was like, that was a little concerning, but I'm sure it'll get sorted out. Plus, it's only a rumor at the moment. There's no facts. Usually there's someone who does like a deep dive and
yeah,
a big thread on some forum or
There's
Reddit.
usually someone using that as an excuse to being
Caught
caught cheating later on down the
It's
track.
always
Yeah, of course, of
Clara.
course.
Like it just comes back to Clara in the end.
When will she learn?
Yeah.
But okay, you're not gonna give us the intro to Max Mailbag?
Which one do you want though? Because I mean, there's the one that's yours. It's like the
one that you did.
Barry White.
Oh yeah.
I need you to drop the beat real quick.
Oh, I gotta plug it in. It's not happening. It's time for that. You know what?
Yeah, Max Mailbag
Max Mailbag.
with Mac.
I didn't know your voice went that deep. personally.
yeah, it's real deep.
It was just a really good voice day, to be honest.
Yeah, it was a good voice day. Oh
Right.
no, we used the voice changer.
Shut up.
Oh yeah.
It's a secret. Anyway, I will start with the questions on Nicole's retweet, so I don't have to jump around too much.
You're actually so much more popular than us.
Yeah, you got two questions. We probably got about one. I think there was maybe two that we got. You're twice as popular as we are.
Oh,
Look
well,
at you.
if
Look at you
means,
go.
That means we're going to see some fresh faces, and they're not going to know who I am.
Oh,
and
speaking of,
get any of my
Sir Arab Knight asks, "How's it like being Fresh's manager?"
Oh.
I don't know if that's directed at you or if it's directed at the couch.
Yeah, how's it
but-
like, guys?
Yeah, I don't know. Haven't spoken to the man. So.
Must be
I
pretty.
know he's around this area.
He
That's all I
is.
know. That's
He
all I know
is.
is a map.
Yeah.
But is he really?
I'm
For
supposed to know.
now, for now.
Ah,
Yeah.
I thought he was like northern suburbs or something fancy.
Nah.
no.
He knows it, but he's a lot of work. So
So if you're
there's
listening to
that.
this,
no, he is a lot of work. But he's very receptive, which is good because I think people forget that when you do have a manager, it works two ways. I can only work as well as you let me. So he is thankfully one of those people that takes that on as criticism and really utilizes the services he pays for.
How many people do you manage? Like you in particular?
8.
I was just going to add to that before you move on.
Mm.
If you're there fresh, answer your voicemails.
True. Answer your DMs, please. You
Wait,
have a
what?
sponsored video. Thanks.
I'm supposed to be his manager, mate.
Oh,
He's
yeah,
not
right,
answering me. Then how am I supposed to manage?
Well, I'll just start messaging him after this and hope that he replies. Anyway, so yeah, 8.
Yeah, I think it's 8 now. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
It's a lucky number.
It is. It's
That's
a good
good.
number.
cool. And Berlin to Tokyo says, "How did you get into esport talent management, and what do you like/dislike about the job?"
How did I get into it? Well, I started in talent management. So there was something called YouTube MCNs back in the day, when YouTube was really starting out, and I had a mentor at the time. And then I just jumped into MCN onboarding and all that fun stuff, which if you ask a content creator, that was spam central. So we don't really talk about that too much. But then I got into esports by replying to one of Jim's tweets, actually, like 3 years ago or something. And then from there managed to merge talent management and gaming and into one. And we've just been with Click ever since.
She's just regretted it ever since. That's her involvement with me, basically.
True. And then what I like about it, well, I guess what I dislike about it is you're having to deal with different personalities all the time. And, it's different people and having to manage people on their good days and their bad days. Things drastically change. And then obviously always having to explain to brands what gaming is and sort of that metric as well.
8 personalities or more?
More personalities everywhere.
All right, who has a split personality?
Not telling.
That's why they're called gaming personalities.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then what I like is, pretty much everything else. Everything else is pretty cool.
Like the events.
Yeah, events fun. Getting to meet people.
Travel.
Travel sometimes is fun. And I just think it's so inspiring seeing people like Fresh, especially coming from Mount Druitt to where he is now. Seeing his old setup versus the insane setup he has at the office at the moment. It's like
got DJ decks. Just low key. I actually have some too. So if he wants to,
you can collab and everything.
We can collab.
Seeing.
I really do. I don't know how to use them.
No, you don't need to know. It's not a prerequisite.
I can press play.
Yeah, that's all that matters. But seeing people like him is so inspiring. So
Awesome.
Good.
Any
Cool.
more?
Well, that's the ones directed at Nicole, at least. I can't remember if we asked this one. Did we ask Dweg?
Nah, that came after.
That came after. Okay.
Yeah.
So this one's from Dweg CSGO. How can we encourage OC veteran players to come back to CSGO in different roles, whether it be coaching, desk talent, or even bringing up amateur players and teams?
We start a podcast firstly.
Yeah.
That's the first step.
No, honestly, I replied to that because it was after the podcast. So I was like, just ask them. Like, I haven't been asked to do anything in ages, but I mean, I'm pretty old school now.
Yeah.
But if you ask any player who's just immediately announced retirement to do anything, I'm sure they'll do it because they're still in the mindset. They're still in the time zone, like the scheduling, everything like that. So yeah, just ask them. And if they want money or something, then maybe if they're worth it, like figure it out. But otherwise, don't expect everyone to work for free.
No, it's true. And I mean, obviously a lot of those players too, that recent knowledge, having just operated in the space as either a high tier player or even just someone that was locally battling it out, that can bolster a desk, right? Like
absolutely.
I
think that's one of the biggest problems we have because you look at the people that we have on there at the moment. You don't even need someone who's been a national champion level because there's not many people who have done that because you get these teams who have these dynasties where they just go forever and win every tournament, 2 or 3 teams. Like it's always Order, Greyhound, or Chiefs. But you can get someone who has won CGI, or you can get someone who has been 3rd or 4th or 5th in the best division in Australia, and they'll bolster any desk. Any desk. You'll be up there with Pilly, and you can really spitball with that guy. But at the moment, they're just disappearing into thin air, or maybe, they're getting a life. Sure, I can understand
The
that,
thing is, a lot of them aren't all from Sydney.
They're just not being
asked. To be into it, you pretty much need to be in Sydney because the budget for CSGO is like not the Rainbow Six budget. They won't fly you from New Zealand to come and cast.
Even if you're in WA, you could jump on a cast with Conky. I'm sure he wouldn't want to solo cast all his life.
I think he tried to do one with Dickie the other day, but Dickie was hungover.
I mean,
So
it is what it is. I mean,
I didn't catch that, so I was just sort of
that's
curious as to how that went.
He's not even from Perth, though. I'm just saying, like, if you're in Perth, if you're saying location's a limitation, you've got Conky in Perth. In Melbourne, I'm sure you could find someone in Melbourne who streams. And then same with Brisbane as well. So
and if you're in Sydney, get us approved to cast NBL first.
Yes.
Eventually.
We'll do it for free.
Yeah, that's what NBL casting is, man.
You have to. That's the oh, sorry, that was the joke. Damn.
That
Anyway.
was the joke.
Where are we going? This tweet is unavailable. Wait.
It's like the ESL plane.
It's clear for takeoff. But I will go on because one of those points just stuck out to me. and it was, obviously there was some talk about Project A and some thoughts around that, but then it actually turned back around into talk about Counter-Strike and what can be done to just also jazz up the game itself from a competitive standpoint. There was talk about changing some of the variables within the game itself. So, for example, one of the more prominent talking points was changing the number of rounds. What are your thoughts on that one, Ian? Obviously, you would have played MR12 back in the day.
Brought up on MR12, yeah. Look, MR12 was very brutal, and it had landslide games. You'd always have, your 13-3s or something like that. But now in today's climate with better SMGs, this weird money system of the win bonus, loser bonus, games are almost over within 12 rounds of a half anyway, So
the thing that I see though is that you see so many teams get to 13 or 14 rounds and then there's just this huge comeback and it ends up being 16-14.
Yeah.
I see it so often.
Yeah.
So
there's
I don't
just
know
too
if it's
many
going to
rounds.
allow them to actually win when they get to the 13
I
rounds,
think there's just too many rounds at the moment, and there's no eco or anything like that. So it's like, why do we have so many rounds?
Well, there's very rare that you will get now in this current patch of economy.
Yeah, you
won't get full gun rounds. Someone somewhere's forcing into it.
Yep.
So very few gun rounds are fully contested. Teams have ecoed for it.
So the reason we went to MR15 was because you had the pistol round, and if you lost the pistol round, you had to eco for 2 rounds. Like you had to, and to be safe and to be sure on the CT side as well, you had to get for 2 rounds. And then after that, you'd be down 0-3, and 0-3 with the MR12 was too much because if you lost the first gun round, you had to eco again.
Yeah.
And then that would be a double eco. And then if you lost the next gun round, it was only a single eco, but it was still like you're down 8-0, like your stuff.
Yeah.
No loser bonus. Have a nice day. Nowadays, you just eco once or half buy once and you're good to go again the next round.
Yeah.
Do you think, obviously that's from like a gameplay standpoint, right? But there's also other factors as well. Like, for example, if you're, broadcasting Counter-Strike and you're paying for
airtime,
huge chunk of, production staff to put on a match, and you've got like a run schedule. That's the biggest challenge, right? Is trying to budget for that from a business perspective with a best of 3. Going, for example, there was one in Blast Premier. There was a best of 3 went for 4 hours, and they were playing out majority of those rounds, and 4 hours
used to be the worst
with
thing
no
about
technical
a Navi
delays
game.
either.
You'd watch a Navi game and they'd execute with 30 seconds left, and you're like, man, if they do that for 15 rounds in a row, that game is going to go forever.
That was happening the other day for me
So-
when I was doing some NA stuff.
Yeah.
But like,
It's frustrating, isn't it?
If
Even
you
as
just wait and there's like 10 seconds and then they don't plant the bomb.
what are we supposed to talk about for all that time?
Yeah.
but not only that, right? You're paying for staff that are manning replay machines, that are
I
manning
know.
different graphics, things
TO
like that.
perspective.
For
From a
14
TO
hour
perspective,
days.
from production perspective, right? And exactly. Like not just the cost, but also the drain on production staff to basically just man that production for all that time. That's a huge thing to factor in as well. Like reducing
no
the
other
number of
sport
rounds.
does it.
No other sport does it, right? Like maybe the only one you'd probably look
Chess.
at would tennis. Tennis matches go for hours.
They do, yeah.
Cricket as
That's
well,
why
but they
I don't-
have
that's-
changes in production teams.
That's why I don't watch cricket.
Yeah, but normally,
It's
right?
too long.
Normally in those sort of productions, you'll have a change in personnel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In esports, you don't have a new EVS operator come in most of the time. It's that one person sitting there watching all those replays, spinning those up, sending those off,
Yeah.
and playing them. But it's another thing to factor in as well. So maybe there is something that needs to be done there to make things more viable for not just
It's a
the
good
audience.
I'm glad we can have the conversation now because I saw Henry G. He did that. He started it all with the Project A talk, and then he started talking about, well, while we're there, since everyone's hating on me, it's like we need to be able to talk about these things without jumping down people's throats, because that's what happened with the whole TCT thing. Everyone's like, oh no, we're not touching it. It's like, well, let's just have a discussion about it and see where we land. And now is the time really where we're going to say like, well, Counter-Strike is maybe there's just too much. Like maybe there's too many gun rounds. There's just the same thing over and over and over. It's going to get stale. So they need to do something to mix it up. I think 12 is a good sacrifice. I don't think we need to change round timers. I think that when you change those, as we saw with CGS, and even every time we went from 2 minutes 30 to 2 minutes, and then 1 minute 50 to now 1:45, it's like every time that happened, the game changes completely.
Yeah.
So, and then you got to change the timer of utility, like 13 second, 15 second smokes instead, or mollies. 8 second mollies.
Yeah, that's right. As soon as you start messing with those variables and things like that, you get a completely different product.
Yeah.
And like I'm just going to draw a completely weird parallel in making coffee, right? So there's a lot of different variables, but like they have a huge impact on the flavor of the coffee or the way it tastes. For example, you can overcook things, you can undercook things,
and you can talk about them without getting roasted.
Exactly. We could just let's go back onto this one.
So to preface this, Jim just got a coffee machine, so he's very invested in learning about being
it's a science.
Barista at the moment.
It's a science, but like once you find that good setting, right, you don't change it.
No,
you keep that consistent, right? You don't change everything at once. You change one thing at a different point in time. Like for example, you change how coarse the grind is, or how fine it is, or like you play with that setting. You don't change the whole thing, otherwise you've lost where you're up to.
Just let it out. Whatever you wanted to say, just say it. One of us.
All right. Anyway, that's my.
It got a bit coarse towards the end.
It does. I was trying to keep it nice and fine and concise, but
what we can all agree on
smooth
is
enough.
The grind is.
Come on, it's getting latte.
It's a turn on.
Huh?
Oh, Ian's depresso again.
The grind is dependent on the bean. All right, everyone's grind's different.
Anyway, any more Max mailbag questions? It's funny how I go on a tangent and I'm the one to cut it off.
Yeah,
that's the beauty of being a host.
Well, I think Mav's question that he put in there he deleted, unless I've just completely missed it. But it doesn't look like it's there anymore. Good job, Mav.
Either way, there was some really good engagement on last week's thing.
Was that we sparked the discussion?
There was a lot of discussion. A lot of it was off topic. Some of it.
Yeah, there really was.
Yeah, take after us.
So who vomited in the toilet? That's the one that I was really interested in.
When was this?
I don't know. That was something to do with the ex-Chiefs boys.
Oh yeah,
That big old
dude. It was hats.
Yeah,
you reckon it was hats?
Look at him. You just know.
Look at him.
You just know from looking at him. He's a vomit and run kind of guy. And that's
tried
what I said. Yeah,
he tried to pull a story
he's like,
in
no,
there.
man. No, if I vomited, I'd tell everyone about that. You know those guys?
Yeah. It's like, if I farted, I'd own it.
Oh, that's right. And then he came in with the old shooting me down.
Huh?
On the Phantom Menace.
It was great.
Yeah.
It was great.
It was horrible.
A Phantom Menace.
All right, we do have one more
It's a
question.
Phantom Menace.
Hit us with that last question, Mackie.
From Basic. Thoughts about a smaller version of RLRS type of tournament called Showdown OCE?
So basically, to give you context, RLRS is like the development league for RLCS. So it's the
Rocket League.
For Rocket League, it is the second division.
Challenger series.
It's those teams that are on the bubble that are coming up, that giving them a development.
Too many acronyms. I'm going to explode. Rocket League Challenger series, please. Car series.
Rocket League
Help.
Championship Series.
Oh, boom.
RLCS.
Okay.
RLRS
Okay.
is different. Anyway, but it's a development league basically. Go for it. If you think you can, and the thing is, right, the thing that makes RLRS work is the fact that it's got developer support.
What's RLRS? Rocket League.
Retirement series.
Yeah, might as well be. Because if you're a champion, what are you after that? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's all so confusing.
No. So I don't know. How do I explain a development league to you, Ian? Like, it's pretty
CGA.
clear. It's
Whoa. Okay, mister. All right, don't get condescending on me. RLRS.
rival series. Rocket
Is
League
that
rival
the
series.
Pro?
No.
So rival is the development. Champion is the numero uno premier.
It's the number one.
Okay. Thanks for clarification.
So basically, it's a relegation.
I'm trying here. Okay?
It's a relegation system. So you have your Premier Division, RLCS, and your second division, which you need to be promoted to. So you can't get into RLCS
I'm
unless
a boomer. You need to explain this stuff to me.
Okay, English Premier League.
I've got it now. I've got it.
Okay.
I've got it.
It's
Whoa.
CGI and CGP.
Yeah. In 2 seconds, Jim.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm trying to. Okay, so people who might not know what CGP
Yeah,
is.
exactly.
Correct.
I'm not doing it for them though. Just so you know, it's not for show. I'm
It's
trying.
B grade and A grade in soccer or football
He's
growing
done
up.
2 now in the time.
But you very rarely go straight into the top division. You
I
have to
did.
qualify through.
I did in Canada.
Very rarely.
I did by just changing to a
Corruption.
different team.
Corruption. That's what happened. So I actually think it's fantastic. The thing that makes RLRS work a lot more is the fact that it's got developer support, right? Like it obviously helps when the developers reaching into their own pocket to help fund things that normally the community would have to do. If the community's got the drive to make something like that work, it'll work. But if there's no ultimately it's got to serve its purpose. It's got to develop players. And it's like that. It's got to create its own ecosystem.
Just playing isn't enough.
Just playing isn't enough sometimes. They've
So-
actually got to buy into it. I think the biggest criticism I've had with Rocket League for some time is the fact that outside of a few players, there's very, very few that have done a lot to develop their personalities and their personal brand as well.
Which in the smaller communities, that's a big deal.
It is a big deal.
FGC and stuff like
Correct.
that. Yeah.
FGC are a great example because those
That's the fighting gaming community for
those players, right? Given the stage, they took that and ran with it. Like obviously, I've direct experience with Gfinity Elite Series and having the Street Fighter guys in it. Street Fighter was some of the most entertaining broadcasts because those guys literally treated it like it was WWF, WWE.
Yep.
Like they came in, they had banter, they staged things, they had walkouts and whatnot, and it was
Those
fun.
were real. Don't try and make out like they were staged.
But they actually talked to the person and said, "We've got a rivalry going on now," and they acted up to it.
You've ruined the whole show.
Oh, Santa's not real, by the way, Ian. Just doubling down.
Okay.
A banger coming through 2 minutes ago from Annette Potter. Why is Ian spelt Ian IAIN instead of IAN?
No.
His name's actually Ian.
It's Gaelic
It's Gaelic.
for John. And that's all there is to say about that.
So we can call you Dick.
So why don't they just call you John?
Guys. do you
Why are
think-
you garlic?
Garlic?
Oh, this is just going downhill fast. I didn't want to make comedy out of it. It's just how it is.
Oh no!
Okay, John.
It's my Scottish heritage.
Well,
And that's it. Okay, now.
now we have one more question, by the way.
Damn it.
I found it. It was hidden down in there. I've got to find it again. So it is from Vu CSGO, who is
Yeah.
a large content creator in the CSGO community. He makes some really good competitive videos on YouTube, if you're wondering, and you haven't seen it before. And he also won the ESEA Next Big Caster competition last season and casted at the finals, I believe. But Vu, he's a champion, and he asks, if someone called you a peanut butter licker, what would you assume that actually means? I thought that's kind of like calling someone a good bloke. It's like, you like peanut butter? I like peanut butter too. There you go.
The only thing I can think of, right, is the fact that during when making movies,
Nicole,
when making movies,
What would you
about
say,
this?
Nicole?
What do you think Jim should do with this answer?
No, I continue.
yes, she's going to let me
Oh.
explain my position.
And then
All right?
afterwards, you're going to be like,
Now, the only thing I can think of is that obviously in movies they say you should never work with animals or children. When working with animals and chimpanzees, they used to give the chimpanzees peanut butter because it's not something that's normally on their palate, and they would
act up all day.
like
That's how they got Mr.
lick
Ed
the
to
roof of their
talk.
mouth because they're not used to it. Like they don't know how to. It's not in their
do you-
diet. It's not
do you
like
remember
anything they've
Mr.
ever
Ed?
encountered.
Do you know
Mr.
what
Ed.
Mr. Ed is? Okay.
Is it?
Oof, you know what Mr. Ed is.
Basically, it's
Is it the movie about like that monkey? That
so the
was-
parallel I'm drawing is the fact that like they think you're a trained animal.
I'll get to it.
That's the
Okay.
parallel that I'm drawing is the fact that normally they give peanut butter to train animals in movies
Lip
Yeah.
syncing.
to make them talk or to make them
Right.
do things.
Okay. Yeah.
That's the only parallel I can draw.
Mr. Ed was.
So
this
it was not
horse
what you were thinking,
in
whatever
black
you were
and
thinking.
white. In black. What were you thinking? I don't know what you don't know.
What are
I
you
was thinking.
implying?
It was this TV show where this guy had a horse and the horse could speak. And so the horse would be like, rah, 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 its mouth would be going crazy. And they did that by putting peanut butter in the horse's gums.
'Cause-
And then they dubbed it.
Yeah.
So a peanut butter licker could be someone who lip syncs.
Right. What?
Or
Does it actually-
it could be someone who likes peanut butter a lot, but not to masticate it, just to lick it.
Just a liquor.
I eat spoons of peanut butter.
Anyone else? Anyone else with thoughts on that one?
Go.
No.
I'm going to Google it just to see if there's a...
It's not a new millennial term that we should be aware of. Nothing on
No.
TikTok.
I mean, all I thought of was that kid covered in peanut butter. Do you remember that video?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I thought of.
How's he going to get it off? Well,
go look it.
Get some weird results. There's a bunch of... There's a
We've
bunch
really
of
brought you
videos.
down. Sorry to all Nicole's followers.
as I said, she's more popular than us.
She's
on Twitter.
She's usurped us.
She gets recognized
She's
in
come in
Fortnite
late.
games, man.
I
Yeah.
do. That was interesting.
We just
Well,
we don't even
hey.
get recognized anymore.
you rode off our success. Now we're gonna ride off yours.
By all means.
Ride this wave till the end, baby. Click like and subscribe and follow, and see you next week, guys. I just know what you do. Like, click on the link at the bottom right corner.
Yeah.
Hey guys, support me on my channel. Remember to subscribe, like, and comment, and let me
Yeah.
know if I'm doing a really good job. And if I am, then hopefully you come back next time. See you then.
Because I read all the comments.
What's happening for him? This is Ray William Johnson. That's literally the only YouTuber that I ever really watched.
Oh, there you go.
Ah.
You don't watch Mr. Beast? Ooh.
I don't watch a lot of YouTube at the moment,
Hey.
unless it's reviews on products.
What is
No
it?
word of a lie.
It's like, hey, it's your boy Dazed. Was that YouTube? That was YouTube.
What's going
Hey,
on?
it's your boy
guys?
Dazed. Yeah, what's going on? I'm gonna take you through a
How-
execute
okay.
on Inferno, and then there was like, hey, it's a Dren here or whatever. I can't remember.
Okay,
it's all in the past now. Forget it.
while we've got you here, Nicole, how important is it for any kind of content creator or group or whatnot to have like a sign off or a catchphrase or something like that? Do you find that something that like is actually important, or you should focus on actually having good content?
Brand building.
Or is it like
Well, you should focus on having good content.
is it like Tinder? The first rule of Tinder:
What's the first rule of Tinder?
be attractive.
Don't use your first name.
Yeah, well,
Well,
Use someone else's picture.
spell your first name properly.
yeah, you might need that one.
I'm glad that's the one I need. Oh, Nicole.
Look, YouTube used to, like you used to need to have kind of your catchphrase. And I mean, Elliot, Mr. Muzok has "What's going on, guys?" and everybody knows it's Muzok video. But I will say that more recently, it's kind of been getting straight into the video has been more successful in keeping
Right.
that retention, because often people do these intros that take way too long
Yeah.
and you lose that
I hate
retention
that.
straight away. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure you hate that.
It's called Wadsworth theory, I think. It's like you can skip to 33% of it might not be Wadsworth, but it's something that starts with a W. And you can actually, there's an algorithm in YouTube that supports it. And you put I can't remember what it is, but we'll find out what it is. But it's like a W% at the end of a YouTube video. And it actually skips to the first 33% and starts from there. Because that's how most videos are just trash for the first 33%.
Is this current algorithm, man?
I don't know about that one.
Yeah, it's a real one.
Okay.
Kick it.
Fact check, please, on screen.
Yeah, can-
And
someone-
it's a fact that algorithm has touched 20% of esports.
So so 20% has touched the first 33%.
Absolutely.
Of all YouTube viewers.
Yes, 100% of the time.
Okay,
Interesting.
let's move on from percentages. I don't mean that's the end of Max Mailbag, obviously.
Yeah. No more
Nothing
questions.
else?
The mailbag with Shelley this week. Well, it's been a pleasure having a fresh face on the couch yourself, in joining us and sharing your wisdom, Nicole. It's been great to have you on.
Thank you.
Now, obviously, it was a fairly, I'm going to say it was a fairly easy podcast compared to some of the other
well, look, we didn't
topics we
touch
put.
much controversy. did
Yeah.
Not
we?
20%.
Well, no, we didn't. But you've done well, I think.
Yeah. Obviously, yourself. If people are a little bit more interested in yourself and what you do, what's the best way to interact with yourself?
Probably Twitter,
Mhm.
at Nicole the Peach, and then pending some other activations in the future.
Okay, awesome. Well, it's been great having you on. As we said, thank you very much for your time and sharing some wisdom and some insight into content creation, and obviously how both the esports world and the content creation world can learn from one another. I've been my usual self in James Jimenez Cowan, Ian Sniper Turner, Jody McAleer, and of course Nicole Constantine from Click Management with the Esports Social Club. And we'll give a special thank you to Skrilla, who are, as we said, excellent in supporting us and allowing us to bring in high-profile content and content creators and influencers and people of importance in the space. And they are definitely not supporting that ASMR.
Thanks for that.
and keeping us refreshed. But as we said, they're in Australia's first esports betting website.
Went down the wrong hole.
He didn't actually drink any.
What is this ending?
This is the one that sticks. This is the one that people remember. All right,
I've behaved.
you have behaved.
I've behaved.
Despite trying to lift that mammoth water bottle. As we said,
it's
if you're going to
heavy.
have a punt, make sure you do gamble responsibly and check out Skrilla because they are supporting us and have been excellent in doing so. We're the Esports Social Club, and we will catch you next time.